This is episode 56 of the 99 Forever podcast. I'm Eric Friesen, and joining me tonight to recap the Edmonton Oilers home opener and make our predictions for the 2022-23 season are two contributors from HeavyHockey.com, Spencer Pomoty and Ryan Lotsberg. Guys, how's it going tonight?
Good. How's it going, Eric?
Yeah, it's going good, man. Ryan, how's it going with you?
Good. Thanks for having me on, Eric.
Yeah, it's always great to have you guys back on the show, and it's even better when we get to record an episode after a big Oilers win. Ryan, after sitting through 8 preseason games, how great was it to watch a meaningful Oilers game again?
Yeah, it definitely felt good. My heart was racing a little bit more, needless to say. It was definitely a lot more exciting, and I'm happy the season's back.
Yeah, and Spencer, how excited were you to watch an important Oilers game again for the first time in more than 4 months?
It honestly didn't even feel like that long, like usual. So it was pretty nice, though, especially with how the game started. I was a little worried, but
never in doubt, right?
Yeah. Oh, never. But they found a way.
Exactly. And, we're used to 6-month off seasons over the past 16 years. And to have one that was a lot shorter this year, that's what we should expect going forward. With McDavid and Draisaitl in their primes, we want to be reaching the conference final and seeing the Oilers get to eventually a Stanley Cup final. So hopefully these off seasons are just going to get shorter and shorter.
Yeah, that's all you can ask for until you can go to the parade.
Yeah, exactly. I'll definitely be making out the trip out to Edmonton when that happens.
Oh, I'll be camping out.
Okay, save me a spot on 104th Ave.
Exactly. Don't worry, guys. Front row seats.
There you go. And we're going to talk about that game now that got the season off to a great start. So the Oilers scored 5 unanswered goals to erase a 3-0 deficit as they defeated the Vancouver Canucks 5-3 at Rogers Place on Wednesday. Conor McDavid scored a hat trick and added an assist in the victory. McDavid also recorded his 700th career NHL point and his second hat trick in a home opener. Leon Draisaitl finished the night with 3 points himself. Spencer, the Oilers are never truly out of a game with McDavid and Draisaitl on the team, are they?
No, never. It's incredible. Like, you think down and out, especially with Demko in it, a good goalie, and they just... The 3-0, they just find a way. It is incredible. Like, that power play is magical. And the penalty kill, too, got to give them credit. But, just watching those two work on the same line, and got to give Evander Kane some credit, too. But, they are they're just heads above the rest. It's incredible.
Yeah, without a doubt. And Ryan, after the Oilers fell behind 3-0 in the second period, what did you think of head coach Jay Woodcroft's decision to load up the top line by playing McDavid and Draisaitl together?
It's a little bit different this year than in years past because we finally have the depth to create a second line that can score when we want to load up the top line with McDavid and Draisaitl. Like, it was Hyman, Nuge, and Puljujarvi for most of the night on the second line, but in the third period, Woodcroft swapped Hyman and Kane around, so you had Kane, Nuge, and Hopkins, and Puljujarvi on a second line. Like, you can load up McDavid and Dry and still give Nuge and Hopkins a really good winger to play with. So I don't mind them doing it every once in a while now.
Was there any additional concern doing it on a night when they only had 11 forwards, though, while playing a man down just because of the cap constraint coming into the game?
No matter which way you slice it, those guys are going to get a lot more time than they would in a normal game because of that fact. So whether they do it together or whether they do it separately, I had no issue with it.
Yeah, and Spencer, what about you? Like, seeing the Oilers go into that game a man short, I still think they're much better than the Canucks on paper, but it's an automatic disadvantage being down a guy. Were you expecting McDavid and Draisaitl to play huge minutes in that game?
Yeah, I think especially because they just had a few months off, just gone training camp. Why not give them some extra minutes? The Warren Foegele one was a surprise. I I'm okay with it because it's just I feel, especially with McDavid, how effortless he skates and moves around the ice. He can just eat minutes up, and but it's critical that you don't do it every game because you do want to save a lot of energy in because you're hoping for a big playoff run. It's not about the regular season anymore. It's about the playoffs.
There's a 2-day break though too, right? So I mean, it's not like they had to play a game the next day. So there's a little more time for them to rest and recover before an even bigger game this weekend.
Yeah, and their season, I believe it does start kind of like, it usually always starts slow. Like they have the one game against Vancouver, I always feel like, and then they have days off. But coming up Saturday, it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, and they really have to take advantage of this homestand to start the season because you're not going to get a lot of stretches like this where you're playing this many games at home. And if you can make hay now, it's going to pay off down the road.
Yeah, and they showed it last year when they got out to a great start and they had that horrible, I forget what month, I think December, was it? And
December through most of January. There was about a 6-week period there where they were off, all 2-11-2.
But their good start kind of, whereas like everyone was worried, but it's like, yeah, but our record's still good. So you got time. You gave yourself a little bit of time to figure it out. And then Jay Woodcoff comes in and he fixed that problem.
Yeah. And as I already mentioned, McDavid registered his 700th career point last night. He became the 6th fastest player in NHL history to ever reach the milestone. And McDavid was quiet early on, but he really elevated his play in the second period and ultimately led his team to a thrilling come-from-behind win in the home opener. Ryan, did it just feel like a matter of time before McDavid broke out offensively?
I mean, it's always just a matter of time, isn't it? I mean, it's a simple fact that Conor is the best player in the world right now. And my personal opinion is that he's the most gifted hockey player that has ever put on skates. Just because the guys that you see today are a lot faster, a lot stronger, and a lot more skilled than a lot of the guys that Gretzky, Lemieux, and all the others played with back in the day. So, yeah, it's always just a matter of time until McDavid breaks out. I mean, there's always going to be nights where he's held off the board, and there's going to be nights like last night where he goes off for 4 points. But even on his quietest nights, he's capable of doing something special.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, he probably is the most advanced player we've ever seen. I still think that you have to compare players to their own eras. And in that sense, Gretzky will always be the greatest of all time because he was that much further ahead of the rest of the league than anyone else is now. But in terms of the game today and how far we've come, Connor McDavid, his combination of vision, puck skills, passing, the ability to just read the play faster than anyone else and make a split-second decision. He just has an ability to dominate unlike anyone else in the world today, and that's what makes him the multiple-time league MVP that he is. And Spencer, just looking at McDavid last night, he was 3 points away from a big milestone coming into the game. Whenever he gets close to these milestones, he always seems to just the very next game make sure that he gets there. Was there any doubt that he was going to reach 700 points last night?
Well, coming into the game, you felt like no way, and then once they got off to that just amazing start, I can't lie, I had a little bit of doubts, but then it's just a flip of a switch, and it's just gone. And once after I think his first goal, it was just you kind of knew like something was coming. He always hints at it, and then it just takes over, and it's a matter of time. That's all it is. Like Ryan said, it's just like if you give him, like it just feels like if you give him a power play, it's like they're gonna score. It's incredible. It is just it's crazy to.
And they didn't get many last night, but they made the ones they got count.
Yeah, Vancouver sure did get a little handful of power plays there. That's for sure.
I mean, the Oilers had 2 full-length power plays that they converted on early, but they had the tail end of a couple other ones at the end of a 4-on-4. So actually McDavid's empty net goal to seal it was technically another power play goal. So he scored 2 with the man advantage last night himself. Yeah, and just looking at the game last night, it reminded me a little bit of a game from May of 2021 when McDavid hit 100 points in 53 games. And coming into that game, he had 96 points. He was 4 away from the milestone, and he just made sure that he got there. Same thing as last night, going up against the Canucks once again. Same team that he got his 100th point in 2 years ago. Just it was sitting right there for him, and he took it. So just I always feel like he's, even though you won't say that he's as motivated by the points, he realizes that his ability to create offense is the biggest thing that he can do to help his team win.
Yep, exactly.
And in his Oilers debut, Jack Campbell allowed 2 early goals, but he was excellent the rest of the way. Campbell stopped 33 of the 36 shots he faced, and he had fans at Rogers Place on their feet at one point after throwing a big hit on Dakota Joshua as they were both chasing down a loose puck. Spencer, what did you think of Campbell's first game in an Oilers jersey?
He was awesome. I thought he played fine. The first goal, I'm okay with that one. Pettersson had so much time, and off of a turnover, that's kind of whatever. And then that second one on the 2-on-1, Miller just absolutely, that's just a good shot. You gotta, sometimes goalies just get beat. You gotta accept it. And then he just save after save after save. I feel like Vancouver did generate a good amount of chances, and they were getting, like we said, they had 8 power plays, so they were getting good shots on him, and he just stood tall. His rebounds seemed way better than they have in the past, and I've always been kind of scared of him, but he gave me a boost of confidence, and he's just so happy and so positive. It's like, oh, I'm a fan no matter what. Like, I love him.
Yeah, aside from his play on the ice, he does have an infectious personality. When you listen to the guy, he's such a positive, upbeat
even on
goaltender.
the ice. He shows
without a doubt. Like, always taps his defenders on the shin pads. Yeah.
Yeah, like that is so neat to me.
And Ryan, I know it's just one game, but how did it feel watching Campbell between the pipes instead of Mike Smith or Mikko Koskinen?
I mean, it was definitely a nice change of pace, I'll say that much. But I don't know what happened on the first goal there. Like, it looked like he just kind of lost his post when he really didn't need to. And then the JT Miller shot, yeah, it's a perfect shot, but that's also a clean shot from bottom of the face-off circle. It's one you expect your goaltender to save when there's no traffic. So, yeah, he'd like to have those first 2 back, I'm sure. But he did settle in, and he made lots of big saves for the boys. If I'm going to be really critical and really nitpicky on Campbell, I'll say that I think his economy of movement could improve. I noticed a lot of times where, like, he'd make the save, but then he'd still be sliding, still be rotating when he was corralling the puck, so he didn't finish square to the play, or like he'd be sliding across and he'd end up over the goal line or near it. So those are just little things that I think he's more than capable of correcting, and could have just be first night jitters.
I was going to say that, and some of it might just be some nerves of playing his first game with a new team, first game with a big contract. But I like the way that he was able to shake those 2 off. After allowing the first 2 goals, he only allowed 1 for the next, what would it have been, 58 minutes of the game. I see it as a guy who just is able to stay focused, and he didn't let those ones phase him. He just knows that what's happened is already done. I just have to focus on making the next save.
Yeah, to his credit, I don't know that we could have said the same thing about Mikko Koskinen or Mike Smith in the last couple of years. Like, if they allowed 1 or 2 early, it was going to be a long night.
Yep.
Yeah, and the way I also look at Campbell is, his numbers, at least save percentage and goals against average, it wasn't too different from what Smith's stats were last season. However, Campbell is a decade younger. He's got a lot more tread on the tires compared to Smith, who's basically near at the end of his career, and Campbell still has a lot of room to play. And also, he just, how should I put this? He doesn't seem to get as phased when a bad goal gets in. Like, you'd see the emotions on Mike Smith's face, and he is a fiery competitor. And sometimes that fire that burns within him can be a positive for the team, but sometimes it can also hurt the team as well. And I just feel like Campbell isn't going to make as many maybe diving spectacular saves as we've seen from Mike Smith, but he might be a little more consistent and reliable overall.
Yeah, definitely agreed on that. It's the momentum sapping goals, like the Mikko Koskinen first shot of the game syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Like the pizza up the middle that Mike Smith would give away every once in a while. Like I think we're going to see a lot less of those with Campbell.
For sure. And of course, there was also a ceremony before the game honoring the WHA players and Ben Stelter, who sadly passed away in August. And of course, just want to take a moment to keep him in my thoughts and send our thoughts and prayers out to the Stelter family and everyone affected by that. But when you sit through multiple ceremonies plus introducing all the players on the ice, and the big home opener, all the pressure, sometimes it can just get you off to a bad start. But I like that he just stayed focused and was able to shake those ones off.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you could also say the Canucks had to sit through the same ceremonies, but yeah, like you say, it's the home opener, first game, new team, big contract. It's everything. Okay for a guy to have a little bit of nerves.
Without a doubt. All right. Dylan Holloway has a promising future with the Oilers, but he had a tough start to his NHL career, making a terrible turnover in his own zone that led to the Canucks' first goal. He finished the night playing just 7 minutes and 41 seconds when the Oilers were already a man short going into the game. Ryan, other than the rookie making a rookie mistake, how did you think he looked, and would you give him another shot on Draisaitl's wing against the Calgary Flames on Saturday?
Yeah, I didn't love the Holloway move, having him on the second line in the first place. Like, don't get me wrong, Holloway, great young player, amazing camp, but I don't think that we needed to put him up on the top six when you've got Nugent Hopkins that can go up there. So I think Holloway settled into his game nicely. Once he got back into it and settled on the line with Ryan McLeod and Derek Ryan, they created some chances and they were good on the forecheck. I didn't see them running around in their own end very often. And like, how fast is that third line with Holloway and McLeod on it? Like, that's a handful for other teams to handle. It's like, I really like that combination going forward.
And especially it gives you more skill on a third line, certainly more skill than the Oilers have had in their bottom six in a long time. And if you have a line like that that's fast and gets in on the forecheck and disrupts the other team's breakout, that goes a long way to giving the other lines, when they come out, more space to create offense, because they know that this next line's coming over the boards and they're going to be a lot to handle as well. Spencer, Holloway was one of the Oilers' best players throughout the preseason, but the regular season is a different beast. Would you play him in the bottom six for a while before giving him another look on one of the top two lines?
That's tough because he was also taken out just due to like penalties. I find too, like it
definitely affected it. Guys like Jesse Puljujarvi didn't get as much ice time because of that too, right?
Yeah, which sucked, and it really just gets him out of the game. And I didn't mind. Yeah, like when he was on the ice with McLeod and Ryan, it was a great line. I like them together, Dratz and Holloway, the idea. But if it takes a little bit of time, maybe you do just want to start them lower, and it depends what they do with the lines, because it seems like McDavid and Draisaitl, maybe Woodcroft likes that together now. And what does that look like for the second line? And then,
I think that in the long run, McDavid and Draisaitl apart is what's best for the team. It just it makes it so much harder for the opposition to face the Oilers when we can send wave after wave of talent over the boards. Okay, here's a line with one scoring champion as our center, and then here's another line with another scoring champion as the center on that line, and some skilled wingers around them too. Now, you have that nuclear option that you can always go to. And it's great to have that in Jay Woodcroft's back pocket, and he can bring that out whenever he needs to, break glass in case of an emergency. But I would say that if they get into this pattern where they're constantly playing together, then it kind of throws off the chemistry of letting the other lines sort of form the way you'd like to see them.
Yeah, that's fair. It's also kind of in part too when Hyman and Nuge, they've always been a good duo, I find. But that line with Puljujarvi, I found they held more than their own. I thought they looked fine, and I liked that together. So it's kind of, as for going back to Holloway, I think him and McLeod, they're almost kind of, they're kind of similar, like not like pace pushers, kind of playmakey, but Holloway's got way higher like scoring ability. And I think it's a cool contrast with Derek Ryan there. And like you and Ryan were saying, they were on the forecheck, and I like it defensively. I think it could be a sneaky good line, and why not give it a shot, honestly? Like, I think they'll be against Calgary. It would be a mighty fine line.
Yeah, and maybe we'll get a sense of that from lines in practice tomorrow ahead of an even bigger contest this weekend. And
I hope for more. Sorry, I was just gonna say I hope for more 5-on-5 too to actually evaluate these games.
Yeah, when you spend 16 minutes shorthanded, it's so hard to get into a rhythm and really see how your lines are rolling over the boards. And going into a game against a team that you expect is going to give them a pretty good battle, that's something that they're going to want to definitely improve. And other than McDavid and Campbell, who were, both very important players in the victory, were there one or two other players that really stood out to you in the win? Ryan, who do you think had a really strong game for the Oilers?
I would look at the pairing of Ryan Murray and Evan Bouchard, who I believe they outshot the Canucks 11-0 at 5-on-5 when they were on the ice. It's like Murray's a mobile defender who can move around the offensive zone and be creative with those elite players. And Bouchard can do the same thing. He can jump up in the rush. He can get pucks here on the point. So, like, from an offensive standpoint, I love that pairing. They were on the ice for the first goal against, but that was the Dylan Holloway giveaway and the one-on-one with Pettersson and Campbell. So, like, I have a hard time faulting Murray and Bouchard on that goal against. Aside from that, they were really good.
And Spencer, who do you think had a positive impact on the game?
I was getting Ryan's answer was perfect. That's who I thought as well. That pair was great, but also Hyman. Like, Hyman's the easy answer, I find. He's just dog on a bone. He just comes as advertised. He works hard. He just gets everything you want done. He plays on the penalty kill, power play. It's perfect. He had a great game, and it's what you expect.
Yeah, I mean, Hyman, I would say he was probably the Oilers' best forward in the first period. Just the way that he was consistently digging in there for loose pucks. It looks like he was treating this game like it was like he's playing in the Western Conference Final again. It's the same level of intensity, and it's great to have a player like that who also has underrated skill, but is a player who you can count on to do all the dirty work in the corners that you want to see from a grinder. And Draisaitl, I guess, would be my other obvious one. I mean, a goal and 2 assists. He really got the Oilers going with that power play goal early in the second period, and then just from there, played a big part in getting the team back in the game. The pass to Darnell Nurse for the one-timer goal when they were shorthanded that ended up tying the game late in the second period. That was huge. And just overall, I would say that he was just short of McDavid in terms of his impact on the game, but still an impressive outing for the big German for sure.
Yeah, he had a great game, of course. Nurse too. Nurse deserves some credit, that goal. And he also, he had an assist as well. But that hit was
goal and an assist for Nurse in that game.
Yep, that hit was overshadows kind of.
Yeah, Hyman finished with 2 assists as well. And also Evander Kane missed a couple really good chances in front of the net. He had a couple point blank looks, but I really respect him for dropping the puck to McDavid when he had an open net where he could have easily scored. And that just shows some character there from him to think that, this is a guy who set me up so many times for goals last season. I'm going to do him a favor and drop the puck here and let him convert the hat trick and get that hattie for his old buddy Ben, who was surely watching down on that one. So great to see McDavid finish off the hat trick. He also had a hat trick against the Flames in a home opener 5 years ago. So First player in Oilers history to ever score multiple hat tricks in a home opener. And just lastly, before we move on to some predictions here, I know they've been back since the preseason, but just how great has it been to see the Oilers wearing their classic royal blue and orange jerseys again, Spencer?
Oh, I love it. It can't go again. They got to stop that.
It's went away twice. I think it should be their permanent look going forward. You can always, if you want to bring in a new alternate jersey every few years, that's fine. But I would say keep this as the permanent home and away set. Ryan, what do you think about the new old orange and blue jerseys being back?
I mean, these are a classic jersey. They are beautiful jerseys. You guys have heard me talk about the orange and the navy before. I personally like that a little bit better, but I have absolutely no issues with these.
Any plans to get one in the next year or so? And if so, is there a name that you want to put on it?
I have like 1,700 McDavid jerseys already, so like I've kind of got a little collection going.
You got to keep that trend. Okay.
I'd be painting the group if I went with somebody else. But I'm conflicted because I know they're changing jersey manufacturers within the next year or two. So if I buy this Adidas jersey and they make another bunch of subtle changes, I'm going to be having another outdated jersey right now if I buy one.
Adidas is going to be the manufacturer until 2024. So I guess they'll have this current jersey manufacturer for this season and next season, and we'll see who comes in after that. But I don't know. I really like the look of the Adidas one, even though it's the same basic design as the Reebok one from 10 years ago. I think that this is even a nicer version of the classic jersey than the one that Eberle and Hall and Nuge were wearing early in their careers.
Oh, 100%. It's the collar.
The collar. Yes.
Yeah. The old one from Nugent Hopkins or the Hall Eberle days, they have the white stripes going down past the shoulder stripe there, and they don't close off that little triangle at the bottom, so you got an orange gap there. Whereas this one, you just got the white circle around the neck and the completed shoulder. It's just such a clean look.
It is top 3 jersey in the league, bar none.
Hard to argue.
To me, it's the best, but I know that there will be fans of other markets that will say that their jersey is just as good. All right, we're going to make some predictions for the season now, and then we can look back on this in 6 months and see how right or wrong we were. I did this last year, too, with a couple of the guys who run the Oilers on the Ice podcast in Brazil, and I think that we hit on a few of them, but narrowing down the exact number on these is always tough. So we'll have a little bit of fun with this now. I've got about 12 or so questions here. We'll run through them and go back and forth and give our takes. This is going to be the first full season in Edmonton for Evander Kane, Brett Kulak, and Jack Campbell. Which one of them do you think will have the biggest impact on the team? Ryan, why don't you lead us off?
I think Jack Campbell's going to have the biggest impact on the team. I think he's going to be single-handedly responsible for a few more wins. Whereas I don't know that, I mean, they already score a ton of goals. I don't know how much more goal scoring on a McDavid line is going to impact the game. So I'll go with Campbell on that one.
Okay. And Spencer, of the 3 acquisitions the Oilers picked up during 2022, who will have the biggest impact in their first full year as an Oiler?
I would agree with Ryan, but just go different. I'll say Kulak. Same reason. Just we have enough goal scoring. Everybody knows that it's about keeping the puck out of the net now. And to have Kulak defend our blue line, he's going to be trusted. Like he's playing 2 lefty, so he's going to be trusted with some tough matchups and hoping for better games than last night out of him and Barry, if that is the pair going forward. But I do think it's Kulak.
Yeah, Kulak had a bit of an uncharacteristically kind of off night to start, I thought. But, he was so solid for the Oilers down the stretch. He gave them decent offensive production, too, but that's not what I really expect from him. I just want him to use his mobility and his passing skills to break the puck out of the D zone and just work it up ice. And if he's solid in his own, then he's worth the cap hit that he came in at, which I think was right around 2.75, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right. My thoughts exactly.
Yeah. Which, I mean, is a bargain deal, I think, for Kulak, especially at this point of his career from age 28 to 32. That's like right when you want him.
Yeah, it was a great little hometown discount. I love it.
And even though I think that Evander Kane is going to be a huge player for this team this year and a big piece on the top line, he might even see some power play time as well. But it's hard to go with anyone but Jack Campbell. I mean, your goaltender is your most important player, and it doesn't matter how talented the team is in front of them. If you have a goalie that's just not keeping you in the games and making consistent saves, it's pretty hard to go anywhere. So I think for that reason, Jack Campbell will be the most important of the three. Who will be the Oilers' most improved player this year and why? This time, Spencer, why don't you go first this time?
Most improved player? That's a good question. I'm going to go with Bouchard. Okay. I think he's just starting to hit the upswing, and I think you're going to start to see he's on like a really good trajectory, and I think he's going to take a step, and that step is going to be big. And if he can play second pair right hand side minutes, and he was great 5-on-5 last year, and if he can continue just getting better defensively, and he's going to be a monster on the back end.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to debate that. And Ryan, who do you think will be the Oilers' most improved player from last season?
I like that answer, Spencer, and I'm going to kind of tack onto that a little bit. I was on Oilers Live on Tuesday, and I gave my bold prediction that Philip Broberg is going to finish the season in the Oilers' top 4. Really? So that would be the most improved player.
Definitely.
I would love that. 100%.
I mean, from a guy who played, I believe, 23 NHL games last year to be making the jump up to a second pairing D, yeah, I would say that's a pretty big improvement. I will go with Bouchard as well. I was debating Jesse Puljujarvi, but I think that where Bouchard has the ability to take his offensive game. We saw him get 43 points in what was technically his rookie season, even if he was an unofficial rookie because he spent more than the limit of games sitting in the press box for the Oilers the previous year. I just think he has 60-plus point potential, especially if he gets on the power play. And when he has the two best players in the world to pass the puck to, plus a bomb of a slap shot, it just seems like he's poised for a breakout year either this year or next year. But I wouldn't bet against him getting to 60 this year and becoming the first Oiler since Paul Coffey, I believe in 1985-86, or sorry, make that 86-87 to get there. Who will be the Oilers' biggest in-season acquisition, and where will this traded player play when they arrive in Edmonton? How about let's go back to you, Spencer.
That's a good one.
Who will the Oilers trade for, and who will be the biggest impact?
Ooh, because we have not much money to dance around with.
Well, assuming that they are able to make the trade work, whether they get a third team involved, or I'm just saying, in your prediction, how is this going to work out?
It would, I think it would be like I'm
going to ask you to predict a name too.
I'm going to do it. Yeah, Chychrun. It would be a Chychrun, and it'd be like a Barry Broberg package going, and then they would sign Demers for the third pair, I think.
Sure, and you don't even have to make a prediction of who the Oilers are sending out. That, I mean, it's fine if you want to add that. I'm just saying the player that you think will arrive. So we'll go with Chychrun. And Ryan, for you, who is going to be the Oilers' biggest in-season acquisition?
If I'm being fully honest, due to the cap situation and the fact that any trade's going to be dollar in, dollar out, I don't see anything big happening this year. But Elliot Friedman seems to think differently. He's been talking about He's been talking about Klingberg, and there's obviously the Patrick Kane talk. So, I mean, for the sake of having some fun, I'll go out on a limb and say Patty Kane.
Yeah, you know what? That's the one I'm going to go with as well. I mean, you might as well go for it. If there's any interest from Patrick Kane in coming to Edmonton, you have to find a way to make that work. This is a guy who is still an elite player in the league at 33, almost 34. And he had 92 points last season. I just feel like you put him on a line with either McDavid or Draisaitl, that could be the piece that gets them over the edge and wins the Stanley Cup. Even if you have to give up a first-round pick or a pretty good prospect to make it happen, you figure out a way to make that trade work, get Arizona involved to eat some money and send a pick or a prospect their way as well. I just feel like they don't want to let another year go by without making a massive addition at the deadline to get them over the hump and beat a team like Colorado in the Western Conference Final and find a way to get past a team like Tampa if they get to the Stanley Cup Final. They have to load up, and with McDavid in year 8 and Draisaitl in year 9, now is the time to go for it. So my answer is going to be Patrick Kane as well. How many 50-point players will the Oilers have this season, and name them? Who wants to go first on this one? I'll give you a minute to think if you want.
I'll go on this.
Okay. You're going to name them.
Yeah, I feel like the number is 4. And 4. Their names are Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Evander Kane, Zach Hyman.
Okay. And Spencer, who do you have?
I have those 4, but one name added on, and that is Evan Bouchard.
Okay, I'm thinking I'm going to get a little more optimistic here. I'm going to say
Jack Campbell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, he'll get there with all his assists. Those Mike Smith type assists up the ice. I'll say okay, McDavid, Draisaitl, Kane, Nugent Hopkins, Hyman, Bouchard. So I've got 7.
Ooh, I should have added Nuge too.
I'll let you. Okay, so you're gonna change it to 5.
Yeah, I'll go 5 and add Nuge.
Okay, I'll cross out your answer and fix that one on my sheet here. I mean, if Nuge is healthy, he should be good for 60 plus points. We've seen it over the last few years. When he's in the lineup, he's a solid offensive player. He might not be the top point predictor or producer that we thought he was going to be when they drafted him in 2011, but he's an excellent two-way player. And, when he's on the power play, that's when he's at his best. So I think with how deadly the Oilers power play is going to be this year, he's going to rack up a lot of points. Even last night on the McDavid goal, he did a great job setting that play up. If there was such thing as a third assist, he would have got it. I mean, just getting the puck down low to Draisaitl, right over to Hyman, then to Draisaitl, then to McDavid it looked so automatic. So he's just deadly there, and that's why I think he'll be good for at least 50 points if he's healthy.
Nuge, though, like if he's going to be on the third line, which it seems like that's the plan most nights, I don't know that his contribution is going to be great 5-on-5. But it hasn't been very good in the last few seasons at 5-on-5, even when playing on the wing with McDavid or Draisaitl.
But that's where he does his damage, is on the power play, right? I mean, he's never been a fantastic even strength scorer, but he's effective on the power play, and he's effective on the penalty kill. He's a special teams expert. So that's where I think that he is going to have his impact with the team. How many 20-goal scorers do you think the Oilers will have this season? And once again, name them. Who wants to go first this time?
Ooh, I can go. I think that will be Drats, easily, Conor, easily, Evander Kane, hopefully gets there. I think Zach Hyman. And then I'm gonna go with those 4.
Okay. And what about you, Ryan?
Yeah, so I said when I was on Oilers Live, I said 6, and my 6 were McDavid, Draisaitl, Kane, Hyman, Puljujarvi, and Holloway. I have to add Nuge to that, though. See,
I think Puljujarvi could be somewhere in the 16 to 18 goal range, but last year I predicted on this podcast last year that he was going to get to 30. And I don't know if he's ever going to be a 30 goal scorer now. maybe he'll eventually raise his game and get to 25, but I think he still has to show it a little bit. So I'm going to be more conservative with that and say he doesn't quite get there. Holloway, that would be an outstanding rookie season if he could score 20 goals. I feel like he's going to be in the teens somewhere as well. So I'll say McDavid, Draisaitl, Kane, Nugent-Hopkins, Hyman, and I'll go for my sixth, Evan Bouchard. I think he will be.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
I think he'll be the first defenseman to score 20 goals for the Oilers since Sheldon Surrey in 2008-2009. So it's been a while.
Yeah. I mean, on Puljujarvi, I think he got 14 in 65 games last year, and he had a bunch of lengthy goalless droughts. I think he had a couple of 6-gamers, an 8-gamer, a 9-gamer, and a 14-gamer.
Yeah.
He only played 65. So I think if he stays healthy the full year and can throw and can avoid the 14-game streak without a goal, I think there's an easy path to him getting 20 goals.
I mean, I hope that he does. And you'd think that if he does get enough time playing with either McDavid or Draisaitl, that he'd have a chance to get there. Same with Yamamoto. I mean, he scored 20 goals last year too. I'm debating even if I want to add a seventh and have Yamamoto getting there, but I still see him as a little more of a playmaker than goal scorer. And as I'm talking right now, I'm almost talking myself into having Yamo as a seventh one. So like, why not? Life's too short to bet the under, so make it 7.
Exactly.
Okay.
I was thinking about Yamo too, but I think you can only have one of Puljujarvi or Yamamoto. I think Puljujarvi pulls himself ahead this year.
Okay. Good enough. Okay. Now we're going to get into some of the big ones. How many goals will Connor McDavid score this year? Ryan, I'll let you take this one first.
Sure. I'm going to get him at 52 this year. I think that everyone's thinking Evander Kane's going to fill the net on that line, but I think people are going to be reading that and covering for that. And I think McDavid's going to be forced to shoot a little bit more this year because of that. And he's fully capable of scoring 50 plus, and I think this is the year he does it.
Oh, I mean, I don't know if you caught that interview that Elliot Friedman did with Leon Draisaitl between periods. That was from the NHL media tour in France back in August. But Elliot asked him, like, do you ever bug Connor about shooting more? And Leon's like, he said, I've told Connor, you could score 60 goals. And Connor said, yeah, I know, but I'm a passer. So I love that. And even if Leon's kind of ribbing him a bit there, I think that's still pretty funny. So does Connor McDavid have 60 goal potential? I believe he absolutely does. I don't know if he'll get there this year because I think he is going to lead the league in assists and be, once again, the best puck distributor in the league and setting up all of his skilled wingers for multiple 20-goal seasons and 30-goal seasons. So I'll say that he will also score 52 goals. And sorry, Spencer, what's your prediction for Connor?
Yeah, I said earlier, I think 53 it'll be.
Okay.
Yep, 53.
You're going one above Ryan and I.
Yep.
The price is right, Spencer.
Yeah, price is right. Yeah. Anything over 53, Spencer wins his closest.
Yeah, exactly.
Big Brother does that too on their competition, so I guess he's got it covered there. And this is the even bigger one now. How many points will McDavid record this season?
I think 132.
Which would be the first 130-point season in McDavid's lifetime. It was last done by Mario Lemieux and Jaromir Jagr in 1995-96. It would also be the highest single-season point total in the salary cap era. Ryan, what's your prediction for McDavid's point total?
So I'm going to throw a little bit of math at you here. Last year, he had a 14-game stretch where he only got 13 points. In the other 66 that he played, he got 110. If he stayed on that pace throughout the whole year, he'd have been at 137. So like that 14-game stretch I referenced was the 2-11-2 stretch for the team. He missed one of those games. But assuming that there's full health and the team doesn't have the bottom fall out from underneath them at any point this year, I think 140 is within reach.
Oh.
And I think he's going to get 141.
You're very close to mine. I have him getting 140 points. I thought, like earlier this year, I was saying that he might get 100 assists. I was thinking that. And I think that there will be either one of these years, either this year or next year, where he has a 50-goal, 100-assist season. And I was debating doing it this year and saying, is he going to get the 150-point total? I mean, 140 points is still astonishing. So I will say that he's going to have 52 goals and 140 points on the dot. So if it's Price is Right, once again, you beat me there.
Yeah.
And now let's move on to Leon Draisaitl. How many goals will Draisaitl score this season? Ryan, you can go first this time.
I've got Leon at 61, just one up Austin Matthews.
I love the shade. Just have to be that a little bit better than any Leafs player.
Yep.
I mean, he already is better than Matthews, right? But now he'll even have the goal total. Still, really have nothing to say.
Yep.
And Spencer, what about you? How many goals for Draisaitl?
I think he just misses 60 with 57 this year.
Okay. I mean, 57 would still be a career high over the 55 he scored last year.
Incredible, yeah.
I mean, if we just go back, like try to put yourself 10 years ago watching the Oilers and thinking the Oilers are going to have a 55-goal scorer someday. It seemed like something that was unthinkable, right, in 2012. And here we are in 2022, and it's a reality. We used to get excited like, wow, Jordan Eberle scored 34 goals this year. And don't get me wrong, I'm a big Eberle fan, but we're seeing Leon Draisaitl pushing for 60. We're talking about McDavid having 140 points. I mean, these are 1980s type numbers happening in the 2020s. Like we're so fortunate to have these two guys in oil country.
Yeah, if this was 2012 and you told me that, I'd say, yeah, you're probably going to watch that game in a room full of unicorns and leprechauns.
Yeah. Oh no, this is real life, man. And how many points will Draisaitl record this season? Ryan, go ahead.
I'm going to put him at 133.
Okay. And Spencer, how many points for Draisaitl?
128.
And I mean, think about like that. McDavid and Draisaitl play together so much that they're going to get points on a lot of the same plays, you figure. I just feel like Conor will still find a way to elevate a little more. And if Leon Draisaitl gets 133 points and he's the second leading scorer on the Oilers, that's insane to even think about how dominant of an offense we could be looking at this year. I think they would be poised to score just goals at will almost all season if that happens. I will say Draisaitl comes in at 125 points. I'm going to be a little more conservative, which is still 15 points over his career high. And like I said, I mean, you got to be optimistic. This is the time of year when you want to be thinking that everything's going to go right. And I mean, for McDavid and Draisaitl, that's as close to a sure bet that those guys are going to push huge numbers as anything on the team. So even if he doesn't quite get to 125, I could still see him settling in somewhere around 115 to 120, no problem.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just thinking to myself, what did I say on Oilers Live? I think I said 120 for Dry.
Well, you can say different things on every podcast, right?
Range.
Exactly. I mean, that's the beautiful thing of a podcast. You can say a different thing every episode, right?
Yeah.
How many goals will the Oilers score as a team this year? Last year they scored 290 goals, which was their highest goal total since 1989-90. Will they get to 300 this year? Will they fall back a little of that 290? Spencer, what do you think?
I think 300 for sure this year. It depends how much into the threes. I'm thinking because they have such good depth now on the bottom lines. I would say, you know what? Let's go 310. We'll say.
And if you think about it, so 300 goals in 82 games would be 3.66 goals per game. I feel like the Oilers are going to score 4 or more goals a lot. So 300 seems very doable for them. Ryan, how many goals will the Oilers score this season?
Well, I believe last year they were about 6th, if I recall.
I think 7th, tied for 7th, I believe.
Okay. And I'm just trying to see what Florida did last year. I think Florida had a ridiculous year at
They did.
340.
340, yeah.
Yeah. 310 might be low. Toronto still at 315.
Yeah, we
I think they could take a step back too, though.
I'll put us at 320.
I like that.
I did say we would lead the league in goals this year, and I think it's going to take about that much.
So you got to go for it. I'm with you. I think they're going to score 325 goals. I think when you have McDavid and Draisaitl both over 50, which we both think, and one of them over 60, plus we're talking about having potentially 7 20-goal scorers, I just see them taking that big step forward. Even if a guy like Bouchard, adds some more goals, you got a guy like Holloway coming in. It's just the talent across the board is more than we've seen in a long time in oil country. I think in my lifetime, this is the deepest group. Well, I mean, technically, when I was like 1 or 2 years old and the Oilers were Stanley Cup contenders and champions, that you could argue that those teams were better. But since I've been following the team, this is definitely the deepest offense that I've been able to watch. What is your prediction for the Pacific Division standings 1st through 8th place, and how many of the teams will make the playoffs? Ryan, you can go on this one.
Okay, so I got the Oilers winning the division.
Okay.
I got Calgary in 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
They're good, but not quite as good as us. I've got LA in 3rd. I'm going to put Vegas in 4th. Vancouver 5th, Anaheim 6th, then Seattle 7th, San Jose 8th.
So you have Anaheim taking a pretty good step forward.
I do, yeah. I think they might make the stretch drive exciting. They might make a couple teams nervous. They won't get in, but they'll take a step forward. I like adding John Klingberg on the back end. Ryan Strome got 3 points in his first game. That's a good ad for them.
Yeah.
Trevor Zegras is going to continue to evolve. Jamie Drysdale on the back end is going to continue to evolve.
Yeah, I still think they're a little ways away, but they're definitely, with the young players that they have and the prospects that they've picked near the top of the draft, you can see that that's a team that's, on the rise. And how many of them make the playoffs? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to say only 3 of them make the playoffs because I think the teams in the Central are just a little bit stronger than some of those middling teams in our division.
So you're going to go with Edmonton, Calgary, LA.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. And Spencer, what's your prediction 1 through 8 in the Pacific Division?
Unfortunately, I am going to say, actually, it is the Oilers' year to win Pacific Division. Calgary scares me again. I think they did very well. That defensive core, I got to be honest, is excellent. It is, Adam Weegar is scary, so they scare me. So I'll go Edmonton, though. Calgary.
It's a good blue line, but is Edmonton's offense better? And I think it is.
That's a fair debate. And then I think 3rd is actually, if they stay healthy, Vegas. Then I think you got LA in at 4. Vancouver will be 5. Seattle, I think, is 6. Anaheim 7, and then San Jose fighting for Bedard.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with that. I really like your predictions too. I'm sort of somewhat of the same thinking. Everyone thinks that the Kings are going to take another jump, with Doughty back, even though he's a year older, and having Fiala come in. I think that Vegas is going to rebound a little bit. I don't think they're as good as Edmonton or Calgary, but I'm debating going who's going to finish ahead of those two. I think it might be Vegas, because sometimes you have to take a little bit of a step back before you take a step forward. I mean, look at the Oilers in 2017. They were a top 8 team in the NHL and then missed the playoffs 2 years in a row. So I'll say that. Sorry, before I move on, I should get your predictions for how many of them make the playoffs.
I think 4. I'll go 4 for this.
I will say it's going to be Edmonton 1, Calgary 2, Vegas 3, LA 4, Vancouver 5, Anaheim 6, Seattle 7, San Jose 8. I think San Jose has started to lay some foundation to be, I think Seattle has, like I said, laid some foundation to be a decent team down the road, especially with Shane Wright and Matty Beniers as their 1-2 center punch. But just once again, it's a case where it's a little too soon for them to take a step. So I think they'll still be near the bottom, but definitely a team to watch out for in the future. And I'm wondering if it's going to be 4-4 teams from the Pacific and the Central getting in, because if I go 3, I'm saying that LA isn't going to make it, and I think that they're right on the cusp there. You wonder if a team like Minnesota, with how much dead cap they have, if they're going to take a step back. The Dallas Stars always seem to flip-flop 2 year after year, being either one good season, one bad season. So yeah, why not? I'll say 4 from the Pacific get in. Oilers face the Kings in a rematch in the first round.
Yeah, so I think we all seem to. I mean, you guys seem to like Vegas. I don't like Vegas as much.
Well, I don't. I'm not saying I think that they're world beaters by any means. I think that they actually were a stronger team 3 or 4 years ago than they are now.
Yep.
But when I look at, like, I think Edmonton and Calgary are both superior teams. Just, I think that they're good enough to be a wild card team, or maybe a team that sneaks into that, third spot in the Pacific and it has to go on the road to start the playoffs. But I don't see them getting out of the first round.
Yeah, I think they'll be in the mix for a wild card spot, but I think they're weaker than last year, and they didn't make it last year. Like, they give up Max Pacioretty in a trade.
Just year after year, they're sending guys out. I mean, there's just no loyalty in that organization. It's just like, who's the shiny new toy we can bring in, and
and that's their downfall, right? They did it with Pietrangelo, they did it with Eichel, and both of them meant sacrificing depth elsewhere. They had to trade Marc-Andre Fleury to make it work. They had to trade Max Pacioretty to make it work, right? And now
it almost makes you think, if they would have kept that core that they had, say in 2018 or 2019, they'd be further ahead right now than where they are.
I think it's true. It's the same thing that Toronto did with Tavares. They sacrificed so much depth, and I think, they've been great in the regular season, but I think they could have won a playoff series by now had they not signed Tavares.
And look, Edmonton's been the benefactor of Toronto having some huge contracts on the books, with Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, all making over $10 million. And you got William Nylander on a big ticket as well. Because of that, they haven't been able to afford a player like Zach Hyman, who went to free agency and signed in Edmonton. They haven't been able to afford their former starting goalie, Jack Campbell, who left and went to Edmonton. So we've sort of reaped the benefits of their big term contracts to those 3 forwards, who also aren't as good as the Oilers' top forwards either. So that's it makes it even better. And after reaching the Western Conference Final last year, I mean, that was a significant step forward. How far do you think the Oilers will go in the playoffs this year? Ryan, you can start us off.
Yeah, so the NHL, it's weird right now because of the way their playoff structure is set up, where in the second round, you've pretty much got 2 teams from each division going head to head, unless a wild card team pulls an upset in the first round, right? So when I look at the Pacific Division specifically, the Oilers are the best team, so I pretty much expect them to get to the Western Conference Final. And I think that Colorado has regressed. They lost Kadri, they lost Burakovsky, and they lost Kemper. They've replaced those guys with Georgiev, who's a career backup that they think might be able to start, but we don't know yet. They've replaced Kadri with Alex Newhook, giving him a chance to see what he's got. And they didn't really replace Burakovsky. So I'm seeing a weaker version of Colorado, whereas Edmonton has addressed their weakest position, which was goal, because Mike Smith was sub 900 in those conference finals. So I could see a scenario where Edmonton beats Colorado and moves to the Cup Finals. However, we have to be weary of the fact that development isn't always going in a straight line, right? So we saw it in 17-18 when we didn't make the playoffs after losing in game 7 against the Ducks in round 2. So there's an outside chance that, let's say the Oilers win the division and get a bad matchup against, I don't know, a Minnesota type team. Mm-hmm. Minnesota is not a good matchup for the Oilers. So there's a chance the Oilers lose in the first round too if they get Minnesota. Right. So like you always got to have room for that type of stuff. Like we can't always just assume just because they make the conference final, they're going to the cup finals this year. That's how I predicted it going down. But there is a chance that we're all sadly mistaken.
So just to be clear, what is your final prediction on how far they're going?
Yeah. Final answer is they lose in the cup finals.
They lose in the cup finals. Okay. And Spencer, how far do you have the Oilers going?
Just like every year, I have us winning the cup.
Well, throughout the decade of darkness, I pretty much predicted the Oilers to make the playoffs every year. Yeah, and I was basically wrong every year, except for in 2016-17 when they finally ended the drought. But the year that they got back on track in 2019-20 and finished second in the Pacific Division. That year, I actually didn't predict them to make it, and they did. So I'm wondering if it's actually a good idea to not predict them to win the cup, but I can't do it. I mean, I honestly believe that this is the Oilers' best chance to win a Stanley Cup since 1990. They will probably have to go out and make one or two moves at the deadline to really get this team over the top. But the Avs, I think, they're still a great team, but they got a little worse in the offseason. The Flames, some people think they got better. Some people think they got worse, but I just feel like this is the year. And when you have McDavid and Draisaitl on your team in the peak of their abilities, this is the time to win a cup. And I think they are going to reach the Stanley Cup final this year. And the first opportunity that McDavid and Draisaitl get to play in a final, I feel like they're not going to let it pass by without getting the job done. So I'm going to say that the Oilers will win the Stanley Cup this year. And since all three of us either have the Oilers winning the cup or going to the final, which I kind of figured that we might, who do you think the Oilers will face in the Stanley Cup final? Ryan, why don't you finish off our last question here?
Yeah, for sure. So I have the Tampa Bay Lightning going back to the Cup Finals. I think that they lost Ryan McDonough, but I think they have enough from within to make up for that loss. And they have so many injuries in the playoffs last year that I think they're going to have a little bit of an easier time going through the playoffs this season.
Okay. So you have Tampa over Edmonton in the final.
I do.
And Spencer, what is your 2023 Stanley Cup final prediction?
One of the teams I actually think is looking pretty good once healthy and once they get there is Boston. I think Boston can get to the finals this year. They're looking great. And other than that, it's that Atlantic division is deadly. Other than just Boston, Tampa, one of those. I think it is Tampa's turn to, kind of take a break. I would love to see Carolina and the Oilers, though. That's my dream, just for revenge. But I do think it's Boston for the East.
I'm with you. I think that it's going to be Edmonton versus Carolina, rematch of the 2006 Stanley Cup final. I still have never forgiven the Carolina Hurricanes for beating us that year, and it would just be so sweet for the Oilers to come back and get their revenge and beat Carolina after that heartbreak in 2006. So I'm going to say they ended up doing it, and the Oilers will beat the Carolina Hurricanes to win their first Stanley Cup since 1990.
Oh, I hope it happens. I hope
that'd be entertaining for sure.
Definitely. Well, guys, look, I just want to thank you again so much for being on the prediction show tonight and having some fun doing this. Who knows how many of these we're going to get right, but it's just always a blast to talk hockey with you guys, and hopefully I'll have you back on at some point again during the season.
Thanks for having me back.
For sure. And just before we go, is there anything that you guys want to promote that that you have coming up or that you're working on? I know you've both had articles out lately. So, Ryan, what do you got? What are you working on right now?
So I'm kind of taking things as they come right now. I've been putting out a lot throughout the preseason, and after every game, I've been doing call-outs, standouts, and shout-outs. So
an interesting series. I've enjoyed being one of the first ones to read it.
Thank you. Yes. So I'm hoping to keep that going as often as I can. And as far as other pieces, I don't have anything in the bag right now, but I will surely be doing lots of content for heavy hockey this season. So keep your eyes out for me.
Definitely. I mean, you've been posting almost on a daily basis, it seems, for the last month. So I always know I've got an article to read the next day from you. And Spencer, you wrote about Max Wanner recently. Are you going to be following the prospects a lot during the season again and maybe putting out a few more pieces on them?
Yeah, I'm hoping to, and just mainly trying to cover the WHL as well. Hopefully that some of those guys, like I want to do some Jake Chase on here soon. He's been out to a great start. Like your tweets have been saying, he's out to a good start. And then just this year is so fun for the WHL. It is loaded with, like everyone knows, Conor Bedard, but it is a deep, deep class this year. And it has been so fun even early on watching them. So that's probably most of what my content will be on this year for heavy hockey.
Well, that's awesome. And it's been a while since the Oilers have had multiple prospects in the WHL at once. It seemed like in the 2010s, there were guys like Ethan Bear and Caleb Jones. And before that, you had Jordan Eberle.
Yeah.
I mean, there was always a player or two to follow closer to home. And really, this is the Oilers' backyard. They should know it as well as anyone. And I think that scouting in the West is a very important thing for this team, and keeping players with the organization for years to come. So let's hope that these guys are going to turn out, as you mentioned, Jake Chason off to a really good start. Although he's even been outdone by this year's first round pick Reed Schaefer, who has scored 6 goals in his first 4 games for the Seattle Thunderbirds. So Schaefer off to an excellent start of his 19-year-old season in the WHL.
Yep, it's a big one for him. I'm excited for it for all of them this year.
Yeah, and he will be able to turn pro next season as he will be 20. Yeah, so, yeah. And I mean, that's a player that, he's unlike a lot of other prospects in the system. He's a guy who has a little more size and a little more strength. And it's great that they've added some of these one-shot scorers like Petrov and Savoy and who's eluding me right now. I mean, Holloway definitely has some scoring ability, but I would call him more of a passer.
Yeah, like Lavoie.
Than a shooter. Lavoie too, yeah. So having another goal scorer who's also a bigger body, I think that's something that the organization definitely wanted to address at the draft this year. But anyway, guys, thanks again so much for joining me. We'll get this podcast out soon, and everyone, please go check out everything that Spencer and Ryan write. They're 2 awesome writers, and guys, we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, thanks, Eric.
All right. So for Spencer Pomoty and Ryan Lotsberg, I'm Eric Friesen. This has been the 99 Forever podcast. We're out.